Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Margot Zaher. Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you all. I'm Margot Zaher. Yes, nice to meet you all.
Yeah, hi, Margot. Okay,
Excited to be here.
Yeah, so Margot is a friend of mine. I've been to her house, I think 4 or 5 times at doing fun parties, full of joy, birthday parties for Kimberly Braun, all sorts of fun things. And she and her husband are just an amazing couple. The possibility for learning about relationships from their relationship is quite amazing. So palpable how cool it is. But today we're going to talk a lot and ask Margot to explain what she does that's very unique by using the Enneagram in her coaching and in her support of conscious leaders. So, Margot, do you want to just start out and let us know a little bit about your journey to here?
Yes. Well, I was first introduced to Enneagram more than 20 years ago. So that's crazy, right? I first heard about it in 2003. And as you may all know, just to kind of remind those of you who aren't sure what the Enneagram is, Ennea means 9 in Greek, and gram refers to a framework, like a diagram. So basically, it's a typing system, but it's really helps you measure core behavior, what motivates you versus external behaviors. And so it's very important. I've discovered, and working with this over 20 years, I've discovered that it really helps business owners, entrepreneurs, anybody in the business zone and in your personal life really understand what drives you to act a certain way, make certain decisions, and the choices you make and how you are as a leader, how you are part of a team, how you drive decisions. All of that is based on your Enneagram type.
I want to make sure people understand how this helps them, because some of the programs that people will do, like I'm remembering back when I worked at Arthur Andersen and ran the Change Enablement Group, we did Myers-Briggs and other kind of personality tests. And some of those, it kind of depended on the day you answered them. At what you got, and it also seemed like they were too rigid. Once you were typecast, it's almost like an actress gets their script and their personality tested for that, and then you're kind of stuck. How does the Enneagram work in a different way than those old-fashioned tests like Myers-Briggs?
Yes, I've also been a part of Myers-Briggs and the DISC, which is also very common in the business world.
Yes.
I used to do DISC profiling. Well, one of the big things to understand is that we believe that the Enneagram, basically you choose one of these 9 types as a strategy to sort of handle the outer world. And oftentimes you choose the strategy between the ages of about 5 and 9. Based on external events and what you're experiencing in your childhood. You do choose one of these strategies and it becomes your core strategy. The thing, though, that's different with the Enneagram to understand is you do have points that you move to. And you have what's called a growth point and you have a stress point. They're also referred to as integration points and disintegration points. And so what's interesting is, while you do have one core point, you will move. As you grow, you may embody more your growth points. And in stress, you may go to more of a stress point. And so it's really a diagram and a framework for personal growth. And then every Enneagram type also has different levels of growth in it. And so there's more disintegrated versions of a type. And then there's more integrated, healthier versions of a type. So it's really a model for personal growth that you can use as a business owner.
So can you be multiple numbers. So there's 1 to 9, and they're grouped. If I can find, while we're talking, I'll find a diagram.
Yeah, I can go over them too for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're grouped in threes, and what happens is, I guess I want to know if, as you can, so you could be at the worst version of your number or the best. You can grow into a more ideal version. And this is really how you see the world, not how the world sees you, correct?
Yes, correct. It's actually I call it an egoic strategy. Basically, it's kind of how the ego has chosen to kind of handle the world. And each type has what we call a core polarization. There's something that they're trying to experience at all costs, and there's something they're trying to avoid at all costs. And so the more polarized you are, the more you're trying to avoid something, these fears, these hidden dimensions. Well, I can explain more by giving an example, but these, what you're avoiding, which I call the no-go zone, sabotages you. And then you're trying to get towards something and just focus on a certain area that you're comfortable with, that makes you feel good. The more you're polarized, the less healthy you are. And then as you grow, you become less polarized and you get more to the center, to, I would say, where you're no longer in this push-pull place. Like, I'm trying to avoid this, I'm trying just to go towards that. You're embracing kind of all of the dimensions.
I see. Oh, good. Okay. So when people get their, when you're coaching somebody, do you do the Enneagram survey first thing, and then figure out how to best help them?
Yes, I definitely do. So I do a 90-minute deep dive session, so that it's an in-depth process. Because what I've discovered is you can do some very simple assessment tests online, but a lot of people, up to 80% of people, I'm finding, are mistyping themselves. It's really easy to actually mistype yourself towards your stress point or your growth point or a different point that we call lookalike point. So it can actually take a lot of deep dive to get the correct point, but also to understand the whole framework of the Enneagram. It's not helpful just to know your point. You want to understand how you relate to the other points on the Enneagram, because it is, as we say, a diagram. So I always start with understanding where somebody is, their Enneagram type, because your Enneagram type impacts you on so many levels, because each type has basically a core fear, and that core fear have limiting beliefs attached to it, which create these patterns and these behaviors. And those behaviors impact you on all levels as a business owner. So for instance, productivity. Each type is a productivity pitfall that's unique to them. And so when clients come to me with productivity issues, then the typing system supports them in figuring out, like, what's their main issue? What is their productivity pitfall? Versus it just being, I have a challenge because I don't get things done, I'm overwhelmed, I'm procrastinating. Well, there's 9 different versions of this, because there's 9 different Enneagram types. So it's really important to pinpoint exactly what is happening. And so you're not just throwing, as just a, one size fits all solution at somebody. And that goes for decision making, that goes for being a leader and how to motivate and inspire a team. All of those, really, you have your specific superpowers in your type, and you have your, I would say, behaviors that sabotage you in your type.
So how did, I know that Gurdjieff was accredited to have started this, and Gurdjieff, for people that don't know about him, I don't have the encyclopedia, the Wikipedia version, but what I do know is Gurdjieff was able to create energetic changes and symbiotic work with groups of people through movement. And one of my friends here years ago was teaching classes of the Gurdjieff movements, where there were, I think, 9 people, and they moved in like a block, in a square, and you could feel the energy around it.
Wow,
I mean, it was really cool. Yeah, he was not from here. I don't think.
No, I mean, I look at him. Yeah, I actually am not an expert on this, and maybe I should be. But I understand it more from their kind of the origins of this go back even further, like why there's Greek, the word Enneagram. I understand it was more Socrates and some of the, the Greek philosophers were looking at the world through kind of and seeing that there were 9 different kind of archetypal energies. And they were classifying this as 9 different kinds of energy that were showing up. And they weren't really putting the personality framework onto it. Gurdjieff started that, and it became more popularized as a personality profiling, in the 1970s and beyond. But I'm not really an expert on exactly what occurred for that to happen.
Okay.
So the roots are a little dim because there's lots of people's opinions about it.
Okay. Well, I guess I wondered if that was part of, because when you look at so many of these possible systems that are in place from the ancients, basically, where you've got astrology and you've got different versions of astrology. Rudolf Steiner,
right.
A different version. So some of these truths it may be the perfect time for them to reappear to help guide us to this new potential of being nonviolent humans.
Exactly.
In the new world. So that's why I wondered if that was all part of it. I think the natural laws are still being discovered.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the interesting way to think about this, and it does relate to astrology, I believe. I mean, I think there's definitely an overlap. Archetypal psychology. And when I studied archetypal psychology and kind of Jungian psychology. I do believe that the archetypes that you see in the zodiac, I don't know whether, but that may be a little esoteric, but a lot of those archetypes, you can actually relate them also to a place in the Enneagram. So there's overlap. It's not a clear delineation, but there's definitely some similarities. And I think a lot of these different typing systems, they do kind of overlap.
Okay.
To show specific kind of archetypal energies. And I think the point for me as an individual, and the way that I look at it and maybe we can kind of play with the triads a little bit too, that we talk about, is like basically to look at the spiritual dimension, kind of when you came into the human body and when you became a human being, you came from this place of spaciousness where you were kind of in this oneness, right? Dimension of oneness. And then coming into physical form, basically what happened in that situation is that the ego, quote unquote, however you want to name it, started up and started kind of a pattern where it fell into certain ways of being because of what was happening, in the external environment. So for instance, let's take the triad of 8, 9, and 1, which we call the body-centered triad. And the thinking behind this is that those types, when they embodied, actually became more identified with their body. So they have a grounding in their body. And because of that, they are making their decisions and moving through life more from the instinctual centers of their body, instinct and gut-centered reactions. And what happens in their psyche was that they want to impact the world around them. They're impacted, their gut is impacted, and they're being impacted, and they're impacting others. So the word impact is key to them. And they're trying to impact reality. So the body-centered are trying to let's impact reality around us. And it's very frustrating to try to change reality because, reality is not easy to change, right? So what happens then is the core emotion of frustration, or it can get to anger, arises because there's this frustration of, I'm trying to make something better here. I'm trying to improve the world around me. I'm trying to impact things. And so the gut-centered types, their biggest challenge actually is working with anger and then working with the other dimension of that, which is control. So each triad has a specific dimension that they're working with, and based on what they're identifying with, which is the challenge of actually being in a body, the frustration of the physical form that you're trying to change and walk through life in this physical being and impact the world physically isn't easy.
Right.
See the correlation I'm making in the body triad? It's interesting.
Yes. Is it okay if I add an image to us, and then that way people have an idea?
There we go. We got the body. You can see the body I just talked about. I can talk about the other two if you want.
Sure, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
That's interesting. It should say heart, but it can say heart too, I guess. So the 2, 3, and 4, I consider the heart center triad. And then you can see their names: helper, achiever, individualist there. And basically what happens is then they identify with their emotional body. So when they came into form, they identified with their emotions. And what happened is that their decision-making came from more this emotional place. You know, how am I actually feeling emotionally about that? How does that feel for me? So feeling is what's important. But what's interesting is what they care about is their relationship to other people, because they're not actually interacting based on their own feelings, but how am I impacting other people's feelings, right? And so the thing that happens for these types is that they get into what we call a place of comparison, because they're image types. They're actually focusing a lot on how are other people seeing me? How are they responding to me? How are they feeling about me? And so the biggest challenge then for the kind of the emotional challenge for those types is actually the self-worth, how they're feeling about themselves, lack of confidence, low self-esteem issues, the whole thing from even feeling like they're not good enough on a deep level, not a valuable, worthy human being kind of thing. So it's interesting that triad then is really working on the whole emotional realms, and they are more focused on the feeling state they're experiencing between themselves and others. I can move to you want me to move to the head one?
Yeah. Yes. So I'm finding though that I feel like I'm all of it.
Well, I will explain to a second how people respond.
Okay. So do the next one.
The head triad 5, 6, and 7. So it's the investigator, loyalists, and enthusiasts. So the way that they're responding to the world is through their mind, right? And they're making decisions a lot based on pros and cons and thinking about things and weighing things and what's important for them, kind of the C word for them, because is it was comparison for the heart, and for the body it was control. For the head, it's competency. And so wanting to be competent in the world. But what's really happening, the emotion that is actually running the show for these types is fear. Because the mind is not a safe place to be in. It's a chaotic place. And the mind, it can go in all directions. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? So some of them are consciously working with fear by becoming more competent, getting more knowledge, right? So that's one of the types. Or reaching out to other people for support, or protecting other people. So basically creating zones of safety. Or they're keeping themselves so super busy, running away from fear in order never to feel fear, and they may not be that aware of it. So it's a very interesting, these are, again, this is very complex, can be more complex when we dive into it. But some types may not be aware of the fear that's driving them, or be aware, for instance, even the body type, of the anger that's driving them. There are types that are less aware of it, but it's still driving them.
So I have so many questions, and I don't want to just pellet you with them. But do you find that certain cultures create different personality types,
yes.
Enneagram types?
Oh, yes. So, Kathy, this is fascinating. We definitely have different cultures doing this. So let's even look at the U.S., for instance, where it used to be. So it used to be a 3 culture dominated by success, being better than your neighbor. So 3 is the achiever, achieving. How much money can you get? How many, the best car. And then what happened in 9/11, they believe, is that we actually moved to the loyalist, number 6, which is the place of wanting security. It's the place of knowing, of fear. And actually, we became more fear-based in our society. Many people believe that we've actually moved from 3 to 6, which is interesting. But like, to give you some more examples, a lot of the cultures that, like, based on, so for instance, 9. So, India is number 9, the peacemaker. You're like, what is that about? But number 9 is this kind of mergy energy that is kind of like, it's timeless. So it's trouble with time. It's like, we're just here now. We don't need to worry about anything. And so the 9 energy of India, who's been oftentimes not really very time focused and delineated, can be like looked at as a 9 place for a lot of people. They explain that as being a 9 energy. Some of the really passionate places, I say passionate, like Italy, maybe Spain and so forth, have been seen to be more of a 4 culture, which is this very creative individualists are about their creativity and embodying their talent in creative ways. But it's where it's a place of emotionality. And like, the Italians have been, stereotyped to be full of like energy and like, yeah, we're going to do that in a passion way, or, getting feisty. And that individualist energy of passion and creativity and the arts, really celebrating the arts, have gone a lot with the Latin cultures. Like, so they've been put in the 4 area.
Cool. Okay.
Here's some examples.
So I'm curious why there isn't a opportunity to go to the center. Like, you look at this diagram, why, there could be.
Why? God, this is so much fun. You're asking great questions. No, you don't actually go to the center. The thing to think about, well, there's a couple things to think about, is first of all, many people, depending on your type, and I don't know if you know your type, Kathy, but we could do that separately sometime. That'd be fun. Maybe a little live typing.
Yeah.
Is because you move, like if you're 6, you move to 9 and 3. You see the triangle in the middle. Mm-hmm. So you actually, while you are a core mind type, you do experience being a body type. That's your integration place is 9, and your disintegration place is 3, the emotions. So you do touch on all 3 triads. And all people experience all 3 to some levels. But what we mean by this as your core experience is the first reaction you're going to have is more from the place of head, more from the place of body, more from the place of heart. And it's going to be what controls your decisions. Like, you're going to make your decisions if you're a body type. They're going to be instinctual. If you're an 8, you're going to make them quickly based on how your instinct and your gut. That just feels like a good decision. And that's going to be very different than how somebody who is heart-centered makes the decision. Like, well, how am I really feeling? How is this going to impact my friends, my family, my colleagues? It's a really different decision-making process that takes the number 1 kind of priority zone. But of course, there's other dimensions for most people. We're not just flatlined and that's the only way we operate.
Right. Is it okay if I take it down for a second? So, I basically am curious how you use this. So you, when you first start working with somebody, you go through this detailed discovery of maybe through their language, how they talk about things. You'll pick. No, interesting. So you just by whatever they answer on your
right.
Oh,
it's an actual process. I was trained in this. I'm a certified Enneagram coach.
Okay.
So I'm trained in doing Enneagram typing sessions. It's not something that you just kind of randomly do. Now, that said, there's certain people I can kind of figure out their type by how they're speaking and what they're wearing. And however, I have a step-by-step process. I was trained by Inner Life Skills, which gives me, basically we look at the polarizations that show up. And the key place to see an Enneagram type are your polarizations. So I help people identify their core polarizations, and then we dive deeper into these polarizations to explore the polarizations and look at like the different I would say, ways of operating based on each type. And so basically I take it from kind of the big picture polarizations to then diving into individual typing sheets to see what really corresponds the best. So in all my typing sessions, people figure out their core type and then what we also call their wing, which the wing basically is the types on either side of your core type. You're one of them normally predominantly, and that's called your wing. And so it kind of tints your experience and it really influences how you operate.
I see.
I'll explain that more too. So yes, I do help people determine their core type, but what's I think more important, like we're talking kind of in, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So like, let's say somebody comes to me, because really most of people who come to me fall into just a few types. It's interesting. Like not all types seek support as often. So like, for instance, if you're a type 1 and you're the perfectionist on the Enneagram and you come to me and we find out you're a perfectionist, then what am I going to, why is this so helpful? Well, one of the things is you may understand or know that you already have this tendency to kind of perfect things, but you may really not realize or get how it's operating and what the negative impact is and what the core fear is, right? So basically what happens is I help people understand like, oh, that's how I've been operating. I'm operating, for instance, as a type 1 where I have to constantly have high standards for myself, high standards for others. I'm criticizing myself. I'm shooting on myself. I'm shooting on others. And this is creating self-sabotage, because instead of moving forward, getting projects done, I'm redoing them a lot, or maybe I'm never launching the things. It was never good enough. But I just kept thinking, well, it's just not good enough, without getting that, oh, wow, I need to shift my entire way of thinking about this and realizing that sometimes done is better than perfect, for instance. I'm simplifying, but the idea is people then identify kind of that core pattern or belief system that's been sabotaging them, which may be simply, I'm not good enough, or I have to do this perfectly. I have to do everything perfectly, or I have to do everything to a certain high standard. And then I do what are called belief change processes that help people shift, because of my background in different work, like the hypnotherapy, the journey, EMDR. Anyway, I use a combination of different modalities that I've learned over the last 25 to 30 years. And I do a belief change process for them to help shift their belief by going back to some of the core seed experience of that belief and helping them rewire their brain with a more positive truth about themselves instead of this limiting belief. So that helps start the coaching process in the right direction, because now we have a solid belief from which to do the work from, to create the new strategies, to create the new way of being.
So this must reveal blind spots for people, right? So once let's say you worked on me and you found my blind spots, you have, it sounds like you have EMDR and hypnotherapy. You have a lot of tools in your toolkit to help me release that. Does that take a long time, or is it a pretty, once you're aware, can you shift?
Right. And like, I don't use the EMDR exactly, but I'm saying I have kind of that background education because I have a master's in psychology and I studied a lot of it. But what I do is kind of my own kind of process. I would call it a coaching process. I don't want to really get confused too much with therapy, but what it is a 60-minute belief change process. And it really does create a big shift for people. I'm not saying that it's 100%. Some people need 3 to 4 of these processes, but they're not very long. In 60 minutes, and sometimes we go to 75 minutes, there's a real shift between where they came in and when they leave based on this belief, which is crazy, but it's true. I would say about 100% of the people I've worked with are like, wow, I really feel different afterwards. And they start making decisions differently. And that we may need to do another belief that's similar or in a different facet to actually clear more of it. But you see a change pretty quickly.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I guess I love the idea that people could see their obstacles to being the higher version of themselves, and then within even 3 to 4 sessions, get a chance to try out new ways of being. And it may take a little while because it took you all those years to have that.
Right, right, of course.
Right.
I mean, I'm simplifying in that, of course, you could do these kind of, I would say, I call them empowerment sessions or belief change processes. I mean, you could do a lot of these and continue to do this kind of work because there's always this refinement and there's more and more levels of health to be had. However, even just a few of these I've discovered has brought big changes for people. I mean, I've had people who were stuck in a decision and then they felt really disempowered. And then they did a session around, okay, I am I can make good decisions. And even that they were able to make a decision. I had somebody who was stuck in grief, for many years, and just, I think it was only like 3 sessions later, was able to actually let go of so much of that grief and move on. It was amazing.
Wow.
Just different things. So obviously it has nothing to do with business, the grief. I mean, it does impact.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is everything to some level. Like I've had people who, one of the big ones is this, and I've worked a ton with this type. So the type 2, for instance, the type 2 is the helper in the Enneagram. And it has a lot of challenge setting boundaries with people and really working on what's important to, as a 2, important to themselves. They're focused on other people. Like, I want to give and give and give and always be there for you, be your ideal friend, your ideal partner. And the problem is that they get lost. And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and they're like, what about me? I got lost over here, right? So I've worked recently, in fact, I had 2 different experiences with an entrepreneur who was like really a type 2, couldn't set any boundaries, couldn't say no to anybody.
Wow.
Was literally like driven all the time to such a level that she was like not having lunch. I mean, it was bad. She was just doing things for so many people all the time that she was, on the brink of burnout. And this type can go to burnout. And I'm really wanting to help people kind of get over burnout and stress. And literally we did 1 session and she just got it. She was like, oh my gosh, and her whole world turned upside down. She figured out, I don't want to like get into details because it's personal, but she figured out like where it came from, the role she played in the family, and she created such a shift in her being of like, wow, in order to really support people, I have to support myself. And she got so fired up about it that I thought we were going to need to do a whole series on this. And the next time we met, she was like, no, I'm a changed human being. I set all these boundaries with these people. I now have a lunch. I'm going to the gym. I'm like, what happened? It was crazy. I'm like about to cry. It was so astounding. It can happen like that where somebody's ready to make a shift.
So I want to ask you a question about mindset, because I think that is really a great segue after having this example, that I think right now people's mindset is, it depends on if they're super sensitive, but the environment we're in the US right now is not, it's, as you said, it's fear-based, but it's also very chaotic.
It is chaotic.
And so I think we have to have stronger mindset in order to focus on what really brings us joy and look for joy. Could you talk a little bit about your experience with helping people with mindset, whether it's through the Enneagram or any of your other work?
Right. Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I think mindset comes from really looking at the limiting belief systems, right? Like, in order to embody an empowered mindset, we have to look at the limiting beliefs that sabotage you from really understanding the truth of your being. And I guess for me, mindset is about also just understanding and knowing your mission and your purpose and embodying really who you truly want to be in the world also. So one of the things that's super helpful with the Enneagram also, I believe, is that each type has a superpower and has something that they really can bring out to the world and that they can embrace and focus on and be like, okay, this is how I'm going to make a difference in the world by being this kind of person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think it can really be impactful instead of getting ourselves all caught up in how other people are and what they're doing and what they're not doing and how they're, how you disagree with them. It's to more focus back on ourselves and be like, okay, how can I be the best version of me? How
Yeah.
can I really embody my purpose on the planet, my potentiality? And I think one of that is shifting out of negative beliefs, negative patterns, but also recognizing your true superpower. Like the place of a helper is, okay, you may get trapped in this whole thing about the mindset of like, oh, I'm not really important, I'm not as important as other people, little old me, nobody really cares about me over here. And that's like the negative part of it versus being in the embodied part of it, which are like, wow, I'm here to support the planet because I have I care so much about other people's well-being. And that I can do this in a way that not only supports them, but that supports me. Like to really learn what true generosity is, that it's not just about giving, 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 but it's about giving and also giving to yourself. Like what's the true spirit of giving? Like that's an example for the helper.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So how would you compare this stuff to the human design work or because I know what I am for that. Or the gene keys. I mean,
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my, I know. I wish I was an expert on all of that. I don't know human design well enough to compare it. I do understand that there are definitely some similarities, and maybe even that they're kind of like brothers and sisters, but that the human design is definitely I think, a more complex model.
It is much more.
And so, unfortunately, I lack the ability to do, I would say, a true comparison because I don't understand human design well enough. I've done my human design, but I haven't really studied the human design to the level I know the Enneagram. I've become really just a specialist in the Enneagram. But I do believe they're related, and there may be somebody you can have one day on the show that knows both equally well. And then the gene keys, I've also read the gene keys and studied the gene keys. I think they're really, really beautiful. And I kind of think that certain gene keys probably, I know it's related to human design and so but I believe that certain gene keys are kind of connected to probably certain Enneagram types, and that probably it shows up like these gene keys more for certain types. There may be some correlations, but I can't actually go into immense detail because I haven't done I think that would require doing a mini thesis.
Oh gosh. Well, the reason why I asked is that in human design, which the gene keys is a evolutionary version of it, they have 4 different humanoid human constructs, and one of them is 80% of the population.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wondered if the Enneagram, if there's a concept that there's more of this triad of type people than there are others.
That's a great question, Kathy. You're asking amazing questions. I don't quite know the answers. I don't know the actual percentages, and I do think it depends on where you live geographically, because I believe that the United States has more of certain types, and if you went to even Mexico, you would probably have more of other types. So I think it's a little more spread out. So in general, though, there tends to be a lot more 1s and 2s and 3s and 6s and 7s. I'm just throwing out numbers for you. There just tends to be more of them and less 8s. A lot of 9s tend to show up too. But I think that I've understood that probably there's fewer 8s, fewer 5s in the population. Now, the point of it is, who knows? I mean, we haven't typed the whole population, and not that many people even really know their Enneagram type yet. It's kind of my mission to help people. So this is challenging considering we really don't know. I mean, I'm just saying in my experience and what I've heard, I have found the most, 1, 2, 3s, and 6s and 7s showing up a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason why I asked is that I think the evolution of our society is breaking more down into smaller teams, smaller communities. Just like in the IT world, you saw team development maybe even 15 years ago, where Oracle and a lot of the big Sun Microsystems, or IBM back then, had these little teams that would go in and do a project. And I wondered because that's very pertinent to business, if you find that if you've ever worked with a team with the Enneagram and how that all works, because I would imagine that would really change the productivity.
Yes, Kathy, that's definitely one of my missions here. I have worked with some teams and want to work with a lot more teams. Why is it so helpful working with a team? Because if the members of the team know their types, first of all, and they then know each other's superpowers and each other's challenges and what motivates each other and what each other's need for communication, inspiration, decision making, and kind of what each team member's strengths are, it shifts the entire dynamic of the team. Because what I've found is, before I would come into do this kind of team workshop on the Enneagram, people would say, oh, I just thought that person was mad at me because of the way they interacted with me. I just didn't think they liked me because they interacted with me that way. There were all these judgments about other team members because they were different than them, because they responded differently to circumstances. So, for instance, like a type 5 might be very direct because they're seeking, they're the investigator on the Enneagram. They're seeking to understand. They're analyzing. They're researching. And if type 5 meets a type 7, and the type 7 it's the fun-loving type, it's the fun one that wants to bring a little joy to every group, that wants to have a little fun on the way, some adventure. It's the enthusiast. And the 7's interacting with the 5, they may think, that's 5 doesn't really like me a lot. They're so direct with me. They didn't ask me how my weekend was or what I did for fun on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm doing something simple, but it's so true. The misunderstandings we have because we don't understand that we are simply different types is huge. And once they understand, like, oh, he's just a different type, and that's what a type 5 is naturally, they're focused on facts and figures, and they're not focused as much on relating and fun. It's not naturally their thing. Then they feel better and like, oh, okay, I understand. I'm just giving you an example.
Perfect. Okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask, and because I would love to learn this, is about you help people with their sales techniques, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to cover here.
I know. We'll have to do this again, but it's because I think that this is a time, as I said, because of the chaos that's in the global consciousness and the media, the way it's churning it every day, there's something to be frightened of or unsure about. It seems like the sales process is totally different because there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of cynicism. Could you talk a little bit about, because you've blended personal growth with the strategic sales techniques, I think, right? So could you talk a little bit about that? I want to learn all about that, because I would love to be a better salesperson.
Well, Kathy, so the important thing to understand then is, and you can listen to, I have a podcast about this, about using your types for sales. So okay. I could put it in the chat later. Okay. I could find it quickly. But basically, what's important to understand is that each type has a sales superpower. And if you can embrace your natural sales superpower, instead of trying to sell like everybody else, you're going to be a lot more effective. Now, and so that's kind of one of the simple ideas behind it. And also each type has their natural sales saboteur. So what I do with people is help them identify how they sabotage themselves in sales, and what their natural superpowers are. So, I'll give you some examples in this, so you can understand better. And just because I happen to be using the 2, I'll do the 2 one more time, and then we can move on to a couple other types. But like the 2, like I said, they're a relationship builder. And so their natural ability to sell, their sales superpower is building relationships. Like really having those one-on-one conversations, talking to people on the phone, becoming somebody's friend. They're going to sell by being a friend, basically, by being friendly. And it's great for them to naturally embrace their ability to connect with people and create connection and relationships and do relationship style marketing. And then, but their sales saboteur is their sense of worth. Is a lot of them have the problem of actually asking for the sale, asking people to do business with them because they're afraid, like, oh, well, maybe I'm really not worth the money I'm asking for, or maybe, I'm asking too much, or maybe people are going to get upset at me for asking for the sale. So they don't actually ask for what they're worth. And so that's a sales saboteur for a type 2, for instance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So each type, again, has this thing going on with them. Like, the 5 is, I'm going to go with something completely different. The investigator, the 5 is very facts oriented, and they're good at researching and numbers and crunching, and they love facts. It lights them up, right? So they need to do sales based more on facts. Like, okay, I'm going to show you all the reasons and the facts about why this is great for you. And because they're going to be really good naturally that way. They're not going to be great at creating relationships, actually, because they're not a relationship type. They're a mind type.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so, but their problem is they may get overwhelmed into this analysis paralysis place where they're analyzing and sending so many facts that they're not actually engaging in the sales process. They're just preparing for the sales process. A lot of charts, a lot of great statistics, but they're not actually, again, going through the process of engaging in the sales process and asking for the sale, because they don't like the one-on-one interaction based on actually having to, gauge where somebody is, makes them uncomfortable. So the social dimensions can make, can get social anxiety, a lot of type 5s, if they haven't worked on it. So that can be a challenge for them.
Wow. So I thought, and maybe I'm incorrect, but I always thought all business was relationship and building trust. I mean, in modern marketing, everything's based on know, like, and trust.
It's true.
Right?
I totally agree, and know, like, and trust. But here's the difference. It's not, you build the know, like, and trust, you build it a different way depending on what type you are.
I see. Okay.
So the know can be knowing somebody by having a great conversation because you're a 2, or know somebody because, wow, this person really knows their stuff. I didn't understand the dimension of what we were talking about because look at all these amazing facts. So you can create a relationship differently. Like the 7s create a relationship because they're the enthusiasts and they're really fun. And they're more than fun, but I'm putting them in that category. They have an energy of enthusiasticness and excitement and newness and perspective. They sell literally by people saying, I just really like this person. I think I'm going to do business with them. I mean, it's that. So they fall into that like category really high, the no like, but it's still, you have to build some dimension of trust in it and show some value as a 7. But I'm going to say the part that you're going to stand out the most is you're going to accentuate your like factor, and you're going to get a lot of sales when you're in your natural 7. If a 7 tries to be something else, then what's going to happen is they're going to feel stilted and small and kind of not themselves. And somebody's going to feel like this person really isn't authentic. They're not real. Like you have to step fully into your type and embody it and not pretend to be a different type, or I think you don't succeed in sales as well. Right.
If you're not authentic in any way, people get, that's actually, I think, what the radar is out right now. Right. Is, are they walking their talk? Are they real? I mean, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. We all try hard to not not take advantage of people or do things wrong. But
Right.
we're all learning. There's until your dying breath. So I think that's part of it. But what you're saying about being aware of what you authentically prefer and staying with that and being consistent like that, once you know, is night and day difference on success.
Oh, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I really believe that it's simply about continue to step into who you truly are on a deeper level and being authentically you. And the Enneagram does give you some guidance. I mean, some
Right.
people look at it as actually a restriction, but it gives you guidance in like, oh, this is who I naturally am, and here are my natural strengths. Let me move more and more into that. And then I can also continue to expand into my integration points. And it gives you a pathway to step more fully into your, magnificence, into your brilliance.
Perfect.
I believe.
Yes. Well, we did. This was like 25, 30 years ago. Worked at a company where I was head of sales and marketing, and we went from 800,000 to 5 million in a year.
Wow.
And part of the way we did that, yeah, I always do stuff like that. Okay, so that's my background. And what we did is we used a program like the Enneagram where everyone had their type. And after we had our workup, we actually had this diagram that we put at our desk. And all of a sudden people could see, oh, I need to talk to this person and work with this person at their strength, not because this is what a servant leader does. A servant leader tries to bring out the strength of all their employees as well as serve their customers. And so this tool that you're talking about and the process that you use can escalate sales and business success like exponentially when the team can work like a smooth engine instead
Yeah.
of this, like, like,
Right, Kathy.
drama.
That's such a great example. I love what you're saying because I think this is so powerful. One of the things I wanted to add about this team environments, and the big thing right now are people who are going into places in the work environment, teams that are suffering from disengagement. Retention is a challenge, right? I mean, the stress of being part of a team or having team members that are unhappy, it's a big challenge right now. I mean, burnout for people in corporations and on teams. And what I really believe is this, and what I've seen is that what happens is that when stress arises in an organization, we have a lot of stress happening right now. When stress arises, you go into one of these three responses kind of based on actually your Enneagram type. One of them is a core response. You go into fight, flight, or freeze. And what I do is help people identify their actually fear response that they're going into in the team and how it looks from fight, flight, or fear. And I help them get into their growth response, right? On the other side, how they can learn to contribute, how, the connection instead of the fear. And so basically the different levels of what the growth response will look like for them. Like instead of fighting somebody, how do you join them? How do you contribute? How do you figure out how to join team? So I think it's very important to understand, first of all, that what I think a lot of people are suffering from is going into stress responses and not understanding they're in a stress response based on their type and how to get them to a growth response.
Perfect. And that's going to ease so much of our change. Lots of people are afraid of change, and we are in this between AI
Right.
and all of these changes, which I like change. So I'm kind of weird. I'm like, oh, cool. What else can I learn, or how else will this be? But I don't know. that many people have the tools and have the overview to be successful in change. And so I want to encourage people to look you up, to look up Margot, and get an opportunity to maybe get yourself a session so that you can see where you are. And then if it's a fit, have your team have Margot come in, and because it will make a huge difference as we go through all of these changes in the earth and in society, and it'll make a better result for everyone.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. And also just want to plug my podcast, the Enneagram Edge, how to drive business and personal success. One of the things that's great about it is I give away lots of freebies, so I may be a way to, leave the audience here a freebie, but I have a free 10 question assessment that they can take to figure out their type. I mean, it's just a very kind of overview kind of typing session. And then I have a free decision-making guide that they can have, productivity guide. So I give away freebies on my Enneagram Edge podcast.
That's fantastic. Well, yeah, I think I have it in the description as well. So, so everyone, please go to that and click on the link. I think you're going to hear more and more from Margot as time goes on. And thank you so much for the work you do in the world to make this place so much better and have people show up into the bright lights that they really are, and release all the burdens that are attached to them. I mean, this is the time for everyone to shine and turn the corner to a new possibility. So thank you so much, Margot.
Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It was really a pleasure, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Sure. So I want to make sure everyone knows how to reach you. Could you share your website one time and any other?
My website's easy because it's my name. You see it on the screen. It's margotzaher.com. So you can go there and find everything. And then the other way to find me is on, Spotify and all the platforms, Apple Podcasts. Just look up the Enneagram Edge by Margot Zaher and you'll find me there too.
Great. And next time we'll talk about relationships, which we did talk about today, relationship to self. But next time, hopefully we can talk about relationships.
Yes, that would be lovely. And I have a book out there too, if you ever want to read it. And it has a little bit more to do with relationships and listening to one's heart and getting out of entrapment.
Perfect. So perfect. Well, thank you so much. And we'll do this again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please share and let